All right. Welcome to the Greek Culture Podcast, where we did.
We're so dicks that are melting. Gargle on the balls.
I don't want to be here anymore.
Welcome to the Greek Culture Podcast.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay. Welcome to the Greek Culture Podcast, where we discuss Formula One and Formula One fantasy using Grid Rival. And today we're going to discuss the Miami Grand Prix, and we have a full house. We got all the friends, everyone in the Formula One fuckery league.
Not everyone.
It's not everyone, but it's a good representation. All right, let's get on into it. All right. What do we think? Let's start it.
Let's start off with Grid Rival shitting the bed with the influx of users that came onto the app this weekend and completely crashed it.
I screenshotted that knowing that I was going to use it.
That was funny.
I ended up changing my...
I was so annoyed by it.
Yeah, either that or someone
Like-
learned how to DOS and did a denial of
What?
service and literally they just didn't want their friends to change the lineups, so they
Right.
DOSed it.
I wonder. Yeah. I wonder if it's literally because there's just so many Americans using Grid Rival, like that are like hot and new to the sport, that like as soon as it not like at fucking 1 a.m, like all these past couple races have been, that it was just a fucking blitzkrieg, like, and the weird timing because of like everyone forgetting because it was a sprint weekend, like kind of compounded. It's like, oh, it was a reasonable
Yeah, the
time,
sprint,
and
yeah.
it's a weird sprint
Yeah.
weekend, so everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, I
And
forgot.
we had back-to-back sprints. Even though it wasn't like a back-to-back race, it was 2 sprints a row that we kind of like, oh no, we need to actually set it up that Saturday early morning before.
And they rolled out a new UI.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're like,
Oh, did they? Oh, yeah. They had that new little feature.
which is nice.
What's
I
the new
like it.
feature?
Well, then they also added like a whole NASCAR situation too. So they've been like, they have NASCAR, they have a bunch of stuff
What's the
they're
new
doing.
feature?
I don't have it on mine
It's
right
like
now.
a little header that gives you like 3 little options. So instead of like going into the further settings, you can do it all kind of like from a little
And they
like pop out widget. Like there's a little modal that
Oh, okay.
shows up.
And they show you the dropout fee immediately. You don't have to click into it and like almost
Mhm.
click yes,
Immediately.
confirm drop, and you shit your pants. And, oh my god, I clicked the wrong button.
How often
That's
are you
neat.
dropping people? I've dropped somebody one time, and it was last season, but I haven't. I feel like I never have enough money to like. It's not worth it for me to drop somebody.
I dropped everybody this last
That's
one.
amazing.
I dropped I had Carlos Sainz, and then when it was Ollie Behrman, I was like, he's gonna be dog shit, and I dropped him like a dummy. And then I had a terrible lineup. I forget what it was. Oh no, I was dropped them and like traded out for Mercedes. Looked really good in free
sure.
practice to that race for whatever reason. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great idea.
I feel like
And then,
newbies tend to
obviously
do
it
well
wasn't
because they like
Mercedes
have
is
something
trash
to prove. Like Liam Lawson did so well last season, so I was like, oh, like I would take Ollie Bierman.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what,
It's true.
how
Nick
Kimi,
DeVries a
Yeah.
few years, like whatever last year.
I wonder how Kimi Antonelli's going to do in Imola when he takes over Logan Sargent's seat.
I
that
heard it might
official?
not happen. I heard it might not happen because they're
No.
probably not going to let him until he's actually 18. Because
Sure.
if they're tossing out 10-second penalties for any reason, they're not letting an 18-year-old drive.
So Williams,
James Vowles,
Say it.
James Vowles answered the question in the team principals interview. They asked him, "Is Kimi Antonelli going to be joining the seat like as soon as Imola?" And like he like very clearly stated, no, like that Logan has their backing through the year, and they have no immediate intention of dropping.
I've been like hounding
well,
about
yeah.
this.
They have applied for the ability to get Kimi Antonelli in the seat, which is interesting, but it hasn't been approved. It hasn't been stated that it's going to get approved. He essentially you have to get to August, which, like, from that perspective, it's kind of like, well, why?
Yeah.
Kind of who cares? He turns 18 in August. He has enough super license points already, so he can join in August. So, like, they can just keep running him in Mercedes cars and previous generation Williams cars if they really are going to make the swap, and then do it.
I mean, I feel like unless Logan like costs them millions of dollars by wrecking, like, I think they're they're not losing any money. I think he still has their contract, so it makes sense. But I mean, he's had some bad luck.
Yeah.
Like, he got screwed by Magnussen
in the part of the grid. Holy fuck! Did he get screwed by Magnussen?
But Magnussen got
He's
screwed
in the
by
part of the grid
everything.
where he will get fucked.
Yeah, you will and you can.
By his what?
Yeah,
he got screwed by
it
what?
was a
By
lot of his
hubris?
own doing.
Like
He was going fucking nuts.
yeah, like who's to blame?
The one thing that James Vowles did say about Kimi is he only wants to take him on to Williams if he gets a 2-year agreement with him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want him just to come in for 6 months and then leave, or come in for. He's like, if I'm going to take him, I'm going to take him for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
so when did
Right. I mean, they've held on to Logan, right? So, like, they know, like, hey, we're going to get new drivers. We're going to try to get them on the, like, they know what price point they're looking at. They know that they're going to try to get these early drivers. And fairly, they're like, yeah, we're going to give them time. So, like, in the same way that they've given Logan Sargent 2 years, they don't want to sign, like, a Kimi Antonelli, even though they think he's, like, a generational great, like a, you know, the next Max Verstappen is what all the hype is.
Yeah.
That, like, he's like, yeah, but fuck that. I'm not going to give it up a year in. Which, you know, fair play. Like,
yeah,
that's interesting. But there's also rumors that Pierre Gasly is now looking at joining Williams.
Well, it makes sense.
His head started having because he wants to get the fuck out of Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, well, they don't have a good. When was the last time you really? I feel like last year there was a lot of Ocon talk. There was a lot of Gasly talk. This year, nothing.
Yeah,
It's
like nobody's
dry.
talking about them. It's really rough. They had a good
Or Alpine.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Ocon did.
He did all right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Say Ocon did score his first point. First point of Alpine's first point of the season.
But at least when there was like drama
was,
last year,
Ocon
they
in
were
10th.
like being talked about a lot. I feel like, which is almost better.
Well, when they take each other out in a race,
Yeah.
Well, that's because they were
side
shit,
by side,
and they were
Yeah,
shit
it was
fucking
nuts.
staff like
First lap,
crazy.
just like coming like literally right next to each other.
I mean, Miami,
Yeah.
them going side by side,
Yeah.
you say in
Yeah.
the first lap, was Australia
Same.
last year, side by
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
but into a wall.
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I was gonna
Australia's
say-
crazy
synchronized
last
driving.
year.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
well, Cody was saying that's the area of the grid where you're just asking for it, and I was gonna be like, yeah, when you're around Ocon and Gasly and Stroll, you're just asking for it.
It's bumper cars at that
Right.
point.
Yeah, if you're fucking Logan Sargent and you're like, you got like Ocon, Gasly, Stroll, K-Mag, and you're just in the shit, you're like,
Ugh.
oh my god, like it's gonna be danger every
All
single
right, and that's a
time.
great transition. We'll
But can you
with
imagine?
K-Mag, we'll go into the race report and we'll go into each other's lineup and see what was your biggest blunder of this race and what was your biggest success. Because I was happy that the lineups got to be pushed because I was able to pick up Norris because I was noticing McLaren was. So I got to pick up Norris. So that was a great thing. But I was like, Ricardo was also doing good, so I put him and I starred him. Biggest blunder. Even though he did pretty well with the star, I should have starred Hulkenberg. It would
Yeah,
have been
I
better.
started
Stroll.
Hulkenberg and got 280 from him, which is
Yeah.
great.
It's fat.
Yeah,
It's
it was
fat.
really good. I'm
Yeah.
really glad I started him instead of like Joe. Or I was gonna start Magnussen, but I was like, I feel like Nico's been doing so well this year. And there's
So
something
well.
about like when somebody's leaving a team, they just do better.
Yeah.
Which
This
is
year
kind
so
of
far.
wild. I mean, I guess not Lewis.
Well, yes, Steins.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I went in. I had the only thing I could afford was to go in on Haas for like all in. So I had both Mag and Hulkenberg and Haas for my constructors. And that was okay. It wasn't the best thing ever, but it was just what I could afford because I knew going Williams or going Steak
a good
was
choice.
rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to pick up Williams because they were the only constructor I could afford that could get me some drivers that seemed like they were going to do decent. So like I picked up I had like my full team had to swap over this week. So I picked up Fernando and Ocon and Williams, and I had Bottas on his last one of his contracts. So I just had to That's what I'm saying. But Ocon surprisingly did pretty decent. Like was like, oh, that was a good pickup. Like that was where my star was on. And Ocon finally actually could like did some shit. I was a little disappointed with Fernando because like he looked so good in the sprint and like was looking so good that I was like, oh, this actually is going to be a pretty decent bet. And I had Oscar Piastri, who also was very good. And I had Max Verstappen, and he was looking very good. So I like even my good picks were shit picks. Like I got fucked.
What about you,
this
Tyler?
week.
Who did you have? Because you're still leading the league, Tyler, for some fucking reason.
So I had Max persistent. I had Leclerc persistent. Magnussen and Stroll were persistent. I had expired Piastri and VCarb were the ones I picked up this week. I knew McLaren had updates. Piastri half of it. He was also down from the last week, so I was expecting to make some money with Piastri. Of like, all right, cool. He's gonna do decent.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go. He's not gonna. I would have had to have picked up Stake if I wanted Lando, and actually that was what I had, and I was trying to go change, was to pick up Lando and to drop RB. RB was because it was Yuki and Daniel both had some bad weeks last time out in China, so RB was down 2.5 million. That was a guaranteed make money pick up that team.
Sure.
Yeah,
they are going to. They were out of place last week. Let's just say in a big way because they both had DNFs. Right. So RB was like I'm going to make money, pick him up 1 week, call it a day. Stroll, I have for one more contract still. He fucks himself up so bad, or he does
that's
decent.
Super true.
I thought that this was going to be like after screwing Daniel over, I was like, oh, he's going to do better. I'm going to pick him up for the race. He's going to be fine. And nope, he's still shit the bed.
Yeah. So like, long story short is, I wish I would have dropped K-Mag. I wish I would have paid the drop fee. I wish I would have picked up Lando. Like I had Lando for a little bit, and I had Williams instead. I don't know. It was a weird off week. I'm a little bit out of sync. I have 4 drivers and a constructor to pick up this coming week, so I'm going to shuffle my team up a lot coming up. But
that's going to be huge because there's like, I mean, obviously we had a new race winner this week, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, but like, so there are people that are very specifically out of position. Like it's actually kind of a good week to have to pick somebody up.
Yeah, I don't know. Like on the efforts of like trying to be ahead of the trend, actually, Gody, you having Ocon last year, I made really good points riding Alpine's turn.
That's right.
And I'm so curious right now if that's it. They are at weight. They were in the grid walk, whatever. They were talking about they are at the weight limit. So it's like, are they undervalued right now? Is that worth the bet for the next race?
I don't think for the next
Their
one.
top speed shit. Imola is a little bit of a top speed track, not completely, but they do. It's fairly long and sweeping with a couple quick turns. So,
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later with Imola, but like Imola is also a track where, we saw them 2 years ago, but we were flooded out last year. So even where we've started with this generation of cars and where we are going into Imola now, like it'll be interesting.
Has data.
No, yes, there is a gap of data. So like any of the teams that are going to be able to like actually and any of the drivers, they're going to be like actually be able to get onto it and like develop that car and get ready for quali. Like those are the people you want to pick up because there is going to be a gap of data like from the cars and from like where they were.
Does anyone practice on Imola in the off season? Because I know that AlphaTauri's close to them. So
Yes.
Very close.
Yeah, they were, like, big
does
with the
that
flooding.
mean?
The carb.
Yes. That is the home
So
track
does that
of
mean
VCAT,
like
VCARB.
Ricardo and Yuki might have an advantage in this next race in some way?
Maybe Yuki.
Yeah, maybe Yuki, but I mean,
Not
Daniel. We saw Daniel in this last one do well, so he has it in him. But also, it was a race where everyone's kind of taking it easy as well. So, who really knows if the data is there?
As the resident Ricardo, as witnessed by my grid culture hat and my McLaren Daniel Ricciardo shirt I'm currently wearing. I love Daniel. I love him. I would love to pick him. I am so sad always. I'm just sad always. Like, even when he does well in like a sprint and then does shit in the race, because he did that last year at where the fuck he did the same thing last year at a race as well, where it's like, even as a grid rival pick, when he does well, it's got a little fucking McCastrix, like, well, yeah, but technically on the thingy he did shit, and you
that's
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
the
Would've beat
transition,
him
though,
or
is
something.
Yuki fucking killed it this weekend.
except
Yeah.
for China.
Especially if you had a
Yuki.
star on that bad boy.
In-
If you had a star on that bad boy.
Yes, no. I think he like Lando, their strategy played out perfectly
Sure.
for that safety
Yes,
car.
yes.
Like that, they were running long, and like where they were at in when that safety car swap over happened, that is when Daniel was in P, was it 13? Or no, he was P12 and Yuki was like 8. And they were going to do the Haas thing and hold everyone behind to build Yuki
Mhm.
the gap to get a free pit stop to try to keep Yuki in the points. And then they so Daniel Ricciardo, really what he should have done was go for as soon as they saw the first VSC, that quick one.
Yeah, exactly.
If it wasn't for Yuki, he could have been on that, and then he could have rode out that wave and it would have shot him up the ranks for like when the second safety car happened, or just in general, that would have been a good undercut for him that he could have done for all the cars in traffic ahead of him.
Here's the real.
But they were like, no, we're going to play the team game. We're going to run Daniel long so we can try to hold these cars up. And then a safety car popped, and they're like, all right, fuck it. You're going to be at the back of the grid, brother. Like,
a real question.
So,
Do I pick up loaded Zard for next
no.
week?
Absolutely not.
No.
Never.
4 million.
Never.
It's only 4 million.
What's your constructor?
it's 4 million. 4 million for like 85 points. If you can put it in somewhere else, not a bad pick. Like, but it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be
worth
like a team. You have to put it into a team or something.
You gotta get like a
Um,
1-2 McLaren.
or like a sure shot.
Yeah, like
because
I might
Max is
drop
going to be down on
Haas
points.
and pick up Racing Bulls, but it depends on if I can. I can't afford anyone good this week, and I only have one slot.
I would honestly pick up Williams for next race because they have top speed right now. They are the fastest on the grid in
Yeah,
the
but where's
straights,
Albon been?
like consistently. That's the only thing is Albon has kind of
Yeah, I know. I like at the
Driving
a
beginning of the
shit
season,
car.
he was looking so good, and
I
it's just
mean-
been like downhill. I feel like since because I had Album for a while.
I mean,
Talking about
yeah. Everyone's been bringing upgrades, right? And the only thing you can say about Williams is they finally brought enough chassis. And then K-Mag blasted into the
Fucking
back
K-Mag.
of that one for Logan Sargent. So they're once again going to be at a chassis deficit. So, like, they're not bringing upgrades. Everyone is bringing upgrades. Everyone is getting faster. And Williams is just trying to keep up with the carnage and the
Yeah.
wreckage of carbon fiber that they leave
Sure.
behind at every single racetrack they go to. So, like, I like Albon. I really, really like Albon, but like the car isn't getting any better, and they're literally having to like sub in fucking Logan's car for him all the time. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a
You know
tough
what? We
bet.
didn't even get into Mike Crack and the Aston Bunch, who actually had a good week comparatively to all of us. He got a 944, and
Mhm.
I think it was having Yuki and Hulkenberg and starring Hulkenberg.
yeah, I
Cody,
would
you
have
killed
more
it.
points if
You
I had
killed it.
starred Yuki, but just Hulkenberg's on a fucking rampage
Ugh,
right
the
now.
1 week. So I finally Yuki,
Dude,
as you know,
holy-
is my boy. I always have him, and it was my lockout week for him. because it was the fifth one. Because it was the
No.
fifth one. So my
God.
profile picture of my team of Lewis Lickme is Yuki. I love him so much, and I'm so mad that this is my lockout week for him because I was like, of course you're doing well. I love you so much, my boy. Oh, it's fine, but
That's
luckily I
funny.
got Hulkenberg, so it felt good.
It's tough because now you want to pick him up.
I
but now he's
can't pick him
expensive.
up. I can't
Yeah.
afford him. I actually think I have to pick up Danny, which might be okay for Imola. Like I don't. If I pick him up only for a couple weeks, what I have to stop doing is just picking everybody up for 5 weeks and then ignoring my lineup for like 5 fucking races.
You got to do the. I don't know. I'm stressed out right now. Right now, but like I like having people on a
I think I'm
2-week and 3-week
staggering
kind of
now.
burn.
Yeah.
But like it's like the day, like the week you get. I don't know. I think it's gonna bite me in the ass. And some part of me just wants to like go fixed. But having something expire every week allows you the option to see a trend drop and pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always do. I always do at least one with a 1-week contract, but I have been pretty consistent about letting people go right now because I'm kind of just on like
You're
just go for
tinkering.
it. It's not that much money. You could, I'm tinkering a lot
my
more.
Question, and I don't drop people enough, but is there a penalty? Like, is there a difference between dropping someone with a 5-week or 5 race contract versus a 1?
It's only about
that's how you fix that.
what their personal
That's how you
tier
fix
is. So it's like if they're worth more money, they're like closer to half
3%.
a mil.
3% of their current value.
That's where they mess
Oh.
up. Is there should be a difference between dropping someone with a 5 race contract and a 1 race contract, because that would really, like, I just do 5, and then if I need to drop someone,
Yeah, you got to buy Daniel out of his contract for $25 million.
That's the way that they should do it.
That's a
Is you
good
get a
point.
higher penalty if you have someone for more races and you're dropping them.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
had a lot of carryover from
I think-
last week, and then I was able to pick up Carlos and George Russell.
Carlos was
Very
a good
nice.
pick too. I think Carlos, I had him, and then with the stall, I was like, I'm going to pick up Lando instead of him, and it was a good call. But I also could have I have Piastri, Ricardo, Hulkenberg, Stroll, and then instead of doing like a lower tier, I went for Aston Martin as my team, where I could have gone for a lower team and picked up a higher person. But I was like, I took the I think that's what really fucked me this week is picking Aston Martin because they had a shitty
They had
week
such a bad week.
combined. Like, and usually
they're
they're
okay,
mid-pack.
yeah.
They're both finishing. They're both getting overtakes. As far as like a team, they've been fairly solid. But the one fucking week I pick them, they are garbage.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is that I would not pick up K-Mag or Haas on anything
weeks.
for more
That's how I
than
feel, too.
1 week.
Really?
contract.
Just one?
No, don't say couple.
Just one
Penalty
day.
point.
K-Mag is on 10. He's
Oh, no, that's
2
true, that's
penalty
true.
points away from a race ban. Like, so like
Okay, that's a
you're
good
about to be
point. 'Cause I
down a
have
fucking
Hulkenberg, but-
driver.
Will they get it?
Maybe I should drop
About that,
Haas.
though.
Will they get a car in the race? Like, will Ollie Behrman come in and swap over?
I don't
think
know
they
if
get-
Ollie Behrman's allowed.
I thought they
I
got
don't know
fucked.
if they're allowed to field a car. Like the team, is it a team as much as it is a driver penalty, or is it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a
like
nobody
driver?
played a better.
I
And
don't
does
know the
that
answer to that.
affect? Does that affect the next race for him?
No, he didn't get any driving points. I think he's at 11 with the last.
What I don't know is like you can do stuff in practice and qualifying that gives you penalty points. Like when does the
like
race
next
ban?
race.
Yeah.
like if he impedes in the pit lane during like quali,
Yeah.
I just
Race
want to
ban?
know if it was worth
Like-
it, because nobody
like-
played a better team game than him during the sprint. He essentially got that penalty and was just like, he smacked the papers out
Right.
of the FIA's hand and was just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He got 8.
I really liked
Yeah.
Lewis's response.
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, I mean, he's really playing the game."
Magnussen
He's
came out.
skirting the line.
Just like he completely owned up to it. He's like, "Look, I know what I did. This was my strategy. I played into it." Yeah,
Like,
and Lewis is
those are
like,
very well
Yeah,
deserved.
he has 10 penalty
needs to do
points
more.
currently. He got 8 total. He got 8 penalties, not necessarily penalty points, but he got 8 penalties throughout the race weekend.
Yeah. Insane.
So
God,
Yeah, you want me to read them all?
the three,
it's absolutely
the
insane.
3 of his points that he got from getting it into Albon don't expire until March 9th of next year. And he needs
Yeah,
to
12
make
months.
sure that he doesn't pick up 2 penalty points in the next 18 races that remain in the 2024 season.
He is
That's crazy.
100% going to get a race ban. No one has ever gotten one.
Points?
So no one.
I'm reading.
I can't.
I
I
don't
That
know.
is
Nobody's
hilarious.
done
But
this
no one.
before,
They've never
so-
actually done it.
Gasly
They've-
came close to it last
No.
year before last, but he like dodged it by 1
Yeah.
point.
Magnussen has been in Formula One for so long too. So like this could be his legacy. That's amazing. Like this could be his
I mean, this is
world record.
I mean, if you take a view back to the past, this is the stigma that Magnussen had that made Nico Hulkenberg hate him and made that hilarious interaction happen when Hulkenberg was at Renault and K-Mag was at Haas.
Just suck my
And-
balls.
Suck my balls, mate. Like, this is This is Nico coming up to K-Mag and saying, like, the least, I forget what the fuck the exact quote is, but he's like
driver.
essentially saying, like, the least respectful driver on the grid.
But
And then
he's not
K-Mag is
saying
like,
it when
suck
he
my balls,
benefits
mate.
from it.
And now he's benefiting on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And honestly, it'd be awesome if K-Mag could just get his quali pace together and then we could see the fucking wrecking ball Nico at the back of the grid, right? Like if Haas just is like, this is the battle plan.
This is what we do.
Like,
One guy just takes all of the blunt force, and we just have Nico just skirt all the way through.
Okay, so
That's
Newsweek.com says
Yeah.
accumulating 12 points over a 12-month period automatically triggers a 1 race suspension. All eyes are on Magnussen and Imola. It is widely considered that if the Danish driver is handed a race ban, it will be Ferrari and Haas reserve driver Ali Bierman who will step into his shoes. So I guess he
They
comes
do
in.
get a car.
Okay.
So they probably need
Oh,
someone
good.
to fill that spot, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
right?
send it,
they
bro.
probably say fuck it, right? I mean, they want Ollie Behrman to fill Nico's spot at the team next year anyways, right?
Are
So
they
they're just
gonna
like, yeah,
keep
let's let the fucking
Magnussen
wrecking
again?
ball
I don't think anything's official.
clear the
with that, right?
cash.
No, yeah, they would.
I don't know why
Oh.
I wouldn't.
They don't want 2 new drivers.
I don't-
They don't want 2 new drivers.
Yeah, I
again.
don't know why they would get rid of him. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they would keep Nico if anything,
But that's
because he's
They're
doing
not.
so well.
he's
But
going
they're
Audi.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
so
it
but he's
confirmed?
not.
Is he confirmed
already
Audi?
Audi.
confirmed, booked.
yeah, he's gonna be at stake at 2025, and then he's gonna.
'Cause
it's
I
a
did just
multi-year
hear
contract, so
that,
we know it's gonna roll over
That
into Audi.
Carlos Sainz turned down Audi. Like that was a
Would you
rumor.
who'd you post that from? Was that just
That-
a random one or like someone?
That was from like F1 Universe or something like that. It's probably mostly just hearsay, but nothing
Yeah,
official.
nothing official.
But
What-
people
mhm.
are saying that he's looking for more competitive options, which means he's probably looking at Aston Martin or
who?
Mercedes.
Magnussen.
No,
Sainz.
Sainz.
I don't think he's a real option but maybe,
But
maybe he'd go to Mercedes if Kimi Antonelli's gonna
well,
go to
they would.
Williams and not
Did you
Mercedes.
guys see that interview with Button and the red flag guys? He was talking about Max's most likely move would not be Mercedes; it would be Aston Martin to keep the Honda engine, to keep
said-
that.
Right.
So like, and
Because the fear is the 2026 regulations
Engine
are going to be a like kind of like the 2017 relation 2016 where it was
Yeah.
all power unit. Like it was just a power unit. Like if you had the power unit, you got it. Which is like how Mercedes gained
Yeah,
their
exactly.
dominance. You know.
and also we can now move on and we can get into Lando Norris. That's our
What a
next
guy.
thing. We just
Lando
I just
no
want to picture
wins.
a giant picture of Lando,
Lando one wins.
Lando. What a race! What a guy!
Oh
So
my God.
happy.
What a
guy. I fucking love
Me
Lando.
too.
I think he's so funny. Like he's like started at McLaren when they were not very competitive. They've like built him up. He was, has had several close shots at wins. Most notably the Sochi. That's actually the first race I ever watched of F1 was his almost win at Sochi. So like that one to me is like, oh shit, this is crazy. It got me super excited. And then they put him on the wrong tires before the end. He spun out, didn't win. Then he, the only race I think that Daniel Ricciardo ever was faster than him at was Monza when he was at McLaren, and Daniel got the win. And then McLaren has been competitive.
What was the race where he led the lap for 17 and then dropped? Yeah.
Awesome.
And I mean,
Right.
he's also had two semi superstars come through, and he outraced them in so many different ways with Carlos Sainz and Ricciardo coming in. And I mean, for being a paid driver, like he's pretty incredible. And honestly, everyone loves him. He's very celebrated. He's the most celebrated driver, I think, right now.
Did you say paid driver?
Yeah, he's a paid driver.
What do you mean paid driver?
His family has a lot of money, and that's
So
how
he
he
pays
got on
to
the team.
drive.
Yeah,
I thought
he
you meant,
pays
like,
to drive.
He gets paid to drive.
He did. He might not
did.
now, but that's how he got into F1.
No.
So from that,
Yeah. I mean, he was also much more competitive
Oh,
than anyone that you would
totally,
call.
and that's why,
driver.
and that's why no one really talks about it too much. But that's how he did. He did get in.
Yeah, because he's
Latifi was a pay to drive driver.
yeah.
Most people
Very
are, to be honest.
Yeah.
Leclerc started that way, but
Logan.
then got the contract with Ferrari and did way better. But
No, Leclerc was like a generational talent that everyone tried to fast track. Like there was
him and Verstappen.
so like, but Ferrari is different than like he was always in the Ferrari driver program.
They kind
So,
of
like,
build you up.
He went
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, kind of like Mercedes
Sauber, 'cause
does
they're
that
Ferrari
with
instruments
people,
at
and they don't have to. Yeah.
Wow, you guys know so
Well,
much
yeah,
about
it's-
Didn't fast track
F1.
people. Same like Valtteri went through Williams. Anyways,
I didn't know any of that.
but I would
You're here for it.
I would say like the interesting thing about like Lando, right, is like his rookie year he was with Carlos. Carlos pretty handily beat him throughout the year, like, but Carlos was like on the up and right, like he was pumping, He
working
was
for that
doing it,
Ferrari
like,
contract,
and that's how he got his Ferrari seat. And then everyone kind of expected Daniel Ricciardo to come in because he was like the hottest shit out while he was at Red Bull into Renault, and like he beat the bricks off of Nico Hulkenberg, he beat the bricks off of Esteban Ocon, and they're like, oh shit, he's gonna come
he's gonna just wreck it
and fuck up Lando because everyone thought that was gonna happen, and then that didn't happen. And Lando has just been steadily rising and been that main driver. I feel like everyone thought it was so crazy when he signed that contract that he's going to be through with McLaren through 2026. Everyone's like, what are you doing? And then fucking McLaren is McLaren is just consistently rose, and Mercedes has dropped off a cliff, and Aston Martin started
they've
good,
kind
but
of just
also
dropped.
waned.
And then even
Now you're
the thoughts of this year where VCAR was supposed to be competitive,
Yeah,
we're
'cause
all
they were
like,
using
oh,
the
they're
old-
going to
yeah.
Red Bull. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, last year, I really started to like McLaren more as a team. And Lando becoming more of someone who I respect as a driver. And then they bring in this Piastri, this rookie who just kills it. And he's so humble. He's honestly my favorite person on the grid right now because he literally, he's like a Max without the competitive because he's so chill.
Matter of fact,
I'm loving Max
He's so
lately,
chill
and we can
on
talk
the
about that
radio.
later, but I would love to talk about Max lately.
Lols. Lols McGee.
Yeah, but I mean, but to get back to so now we've hyped up Lando's rise to this moment, right? Which I think we thought might come soon, but was genuinely I was surprised to see it happen this weekend, especially after
to get his first win.
One short of Nico Rosberg. But I mean, even at the start of the race, right? He lost some positions. Oscar Piastri went up 4 positions, and halfway through the race, if you were going to put money on a McLaren driver, you're like, oh shit, like Oscar is doing fantastic. And like, you could tell that the McLaren had competitive pace, not only with the Ferraris, which I think everyone kind of assumed was like, we were looking at like, lap 20 or whatever. You were thinking, oh shit, Oscar might get a P2, right? Like, not even considering that there could be a McLaren on the top step. And then slowly but surely, that cycle of fucking safety cars and pit stops in the middle of the race, like, as it popped over, you realize, like, oh shit, like, Lando's out front. McLaren, like, or Max just pit. There's a 18-second gap between them. And then you're like, wait a minute. How long's the safety car? They're like 12. You're like, oh shit! Like that's gonna be Lando out front.
Because that virtual safety car basically won him the race because he was able to pit under that quickly, and
hands down,
that's
what won him the race.
But his timing up there after Max pitted without the safety car, he was 18 seconds. If they would have been quick on it, got him in there, he could have kept it. Max was struggling.
Sure.
Max wasn't in his own realm. You watched when I was watching his onboard camera, his turns were harsh. He was struggling. He was doing wide turns, but he's Max, so he's still keeping pace. But in the end, I think Lando won by 7 seconds.
Yeah, there was an interesting point.
So
that like in the beginning of the race, everyone was pretty close. Like there wasn't very large gaps, but at the end everyone got spread out, and it was like no one could keep up with
there was one there's one point in time, I think it was a lap like 16 18, and David Coulthard on the F1 stream was commenting on Max's lead, his gap, and it was at that time to Leclerc it was 3 seconds. He was like, oh yep, there's there's Max, you look clearly he's managing his pace. And I think in hindsight, you're like, no. I actually think that was what he had. I don't think he had much more in him.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly he hit the bollard. He caused. He started to break down, started to kind of decompose in his structure.
Yeah. Max versus the cone. My favorite moment. He's like, the cone. It's like I just was like, just trying to take out the cone.
List of upgrades that McLaren brought this weekend. It's also interesting to note that Norris was the only one with the full package. Oscar had only 50% of the full. But
that's interesting.
And they said that was worth like 0.3.
They had a completely new front wing
difference.
They had new front suspension geometry
between
to
the two,
support airflow off the front wing and better condition for the rest of the car. Revised front brake duct and winglet that helps better manage airflow.
I saw that.
Completely revised floor, revised side pod inlet, new bodywork and engine cover, an updated range of cooling. What the hell is that word? Lubes. Updated rear suspension,
levers,
revised rear brake ducts and winglets, a new offloaded beam wing designed to better trade the load between it and the rear wing. That was for according to US Motorsport.
So I watched the pre-show with Andreas Seidel. Can't say his name right now. And he showed all of these components. And I think the things that were really interesting to me were the rear brake ducts. The cooling inlets came in, kind of these wings that sucked air into the brake ducts, but in the back it looked like a trumpet, and they were pushing air up.
Provide more downforce.
They were, and what it made me think about, and as this week every with Adrian Newey, we're not going to talk about that right now, but Adrian Newey was famous for Sebastian Vettel's era of his championships with the exhaust going into the rear diffuser, the blown diffusers as they call them, taking that pressurized air and pushing it somewhere to help create that downforce. I'm just interesting to look at those rear brake ducts shooting up, taking that flow in, pushing it, really helping push those rear wheels down, creating that downforce and that grip. I just was like,
That's
this is
cool.
so interesting to see this update.
And they added some through the wheel spokes or whatever they call them, the supports. They added those 2 ducts right there in the window. I remember watching that in the pre-show too. So that was another asset for them. That's cool. Honestly, it's awesome to see like the upgrades really actually, like, you see upgrades, you're like, oh, their performance is better, they're actually gaining, and then they're closer to the Red Bull, but they're not beating it. And then we see someone beat it, and it's like, finally we're kind of getting there. And then next year everything changes, or no, 2 years, never mind.
2 years. Yeah,
Cool.
We'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Do we want to go over the race report?
Oh, the other thing too is that Max, like, they did confirm, like, when he ran over the like when he went through the cone, it damaged the front wing and the rear, like right next to the side pod as it hits in front of the wheel well, the rear wheel well. Like, he damaged the shit out of his underfloor, and so like they were like, yeah, he lost a fair amount of downforce and pace. Like, even from when like he was holding that 3-second gap, he probably could have edged that up throughout the race, but then he damaged the car. Then like that was kind of the beginning of the end. Like, it would have been interesting if that safety car wouldn't have had Lando right out front. Like, there's still a real world where like that McLaren had competitive pace that like they could have charged through the field after, like, even if it was just the first VSC, like they still had a very competitive
I love how
and if Carlos Sainz didn't barrel through Oscar Piastri, like, he was actually making pretty
if
good
he didn't
headway,
ruin their
like,
front wing,
he probably was still
slowed them down.
Anyways, that front wing, that I don't know if you saw the sketches of the old McLaren front wing and the new one. It is so slightly different. It is so interesting how slight it is. Like, but it huge effect, like huge difference. Because like that's what gives a lot of the feeling in the front of the car for like turn-in points and stuff. And so it's like the front wings are always so interesting because that's what like a lot of the driver feel bite point.
Where it actually
feedback
gives
that they
it
give.
that pull down in the front. I love how nonchalant and like kind of like no fucks given Max is getting lately. He is hilarious. I think Barty wanted to talk about this because with him hitting the cone already is him just being like, hey, I didn't get to make it through that chicane. I'm sorry. I hit and he knew that was probably not going to, it was going to affect his car in some way, but he was like, I'm literally miles ahead. I have 130 points and the closest person is Perez, and he is 8.
And I think like the old Max, even when he was ahead last year, would have been maybe a dick about it and like pissed about something. But it seems like lately he's just been like very chill about everything constantly, like sim racing till 2 a.m. before a race, just saying, like, anytime he's asked about this Mercedes stuff and he's just like, why would I? He's like, I don't really care about money, I just want a fast car. Like, that's all he keeps saying. And then it was just so cute how happy he was for Lando. And then that later interview when he was like, when they were like, what could have happened differently if there was another safety car, and he's like, oh, if my mom had balls, she'd be my dad. And I was just like, what is happening?
I just watched the video and it was like, what are these 2 videos that give the same energy? Funny. And it's that one chef, it's like he's like, if my mom had wheels, she'd be a bicycle.
If my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bicycle.
If my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike.
That's exactly right.
That is I think I sent that one to the Instagram chat because it's an so evergreen. Every time I see it, fucking cracks me up. It's about a carbonara, which I think is also even funnier.
Just
like a mac and cheese is like a carbonara. He said, yeah, and if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike.
It's so funny. And Lando's just there. And he's just like,
same energy.
I'm like,
Yeah.
They're just
And like
what is
Leclerc and
happening?
Lando can't keep it together
They're
at
just-
all in that clip.
It's
They
also
just-
awesome that all of them kind of like grew up racing
Yeah.
together. I know Lando is like much younger, but like he was there, he was around. There's a lot of pictures with them still in like racing uniforms. So that's honestly love
Yeah.
that.
But it just kind of seems
Okay,
like
let's,
Max is getting
yeah.
a little bored. But I don't think that means he'd go somewhere else. Like, I think he's just gonna ride this wave till it doesn't work anymore.
I think 2026 will be a big year for
Mhm.
everybody. I think it'll be a big shakeup, but I don't think he's leaving before that at all.
Yeah, I'm turning 34 that year,
Um,
so
Yeah.
big year.
Big year. Let's go into the next race, Imola. What do we think? What are we feeling?
Logan
That's
Sargent, P7.
Logan
Seven?
Sargent,
What a
P7.
bold move.
That's
Bold.
bold.
You gonna pick him up?
If my mother had bicycle, she'd be a bike.
Is he gonna race in the F2
Yeah.
race that weekend or something? I'm confused.
Yeah. Fernando Alonso
And
wins
we'll
it all.
already be nuts because of the amount of teams bringing upgrades. And then, like you said, Cody, we didn't
Mhm.
race there last year, and so we only have 1 year racing in these new
Yeah.
cars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So like thinking about that, like so we didn't race there last year. Last year was Zhou's first year. So he hasn't raced it.
was Piastri's first
hasn't
year.
Raced it.
So Piastri hasn't
Yeah.
done that.
So there's a fair number of drivers that haven't raced it, which is
But
interesting.
I think Piastri probably raced it
They
in
probably raced it at
uh,
some point.
Formula
I'm sure they
F2.
raced it
Yeah.
at
Is it
some
an
point.
F2?
It's an iconic track.
is it,
I'm reading that Ferrari's bringing big upgrades, pretty big upgrades, significant upgrades. They say to it.
that is.
Love that.
Oh yeah, there will be. Oh wait, no, this is F2 2022. They did
Mercedes
race
as well.
Imola and
I wonder if Aston
2022.
as well. Let me see.
so F2 regularly races there, and there'll be an F2. There'll be F2 races there
Nice.
That is fun.
at the next race, which is kind of fun, which is nice because like. I mean, did you guys watch any of the
No, I
Academy
saw
races
the
in
the
Miami?
race highlights of the Academy, which is awesome. But no, I wanted to, and I like watching all of like this stuff on what's her name from McLaren.
Monica.
Yeah, Bia
Bia.
is so cool. And then
Mhm.
of course Block gotta
pulling,
Block.
yeah,
yeah.
Dorian
Williams.
Pan. She's badass.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
do wish
Mhm.
She's
a
badass.
beast. So, anyways, yeah, the F2 is it honestly it's everyone's good. It's better. I mean, the cars are faster. They're more competitive. Like they look really good. It's just as exciting to watch those races, and those dudes are fucking going ham always. Like they're just sending it. Like,
It
there's
reminds me
no
of college
care.
football. Whenever I
And-
watch college football, it feels like there's a bunch of kids running around with their just running around, chickens about their heads, like catching the ball with their feet and doing backflips and stuff. And then you go watch regular football, and it's
Mhm.
like just very organized, and that's exactly how I feel about FP2 or Formula 2. It's just like it just seems like everyone's just all over the track. They're just quicker, it's shorter, smaller. It feels dangerous too. It feels much more dangerous in so many ways. Even though I know they're not downforce as much as downforce, and there's not as much like G's going into each turn. So it's not as like crazy on the body for them.
I will say the one thing that pisses me off about F1
There's
Academy
been more
is I wish it
F2
was better
deaths
advertised.
than F1 deaths.
Mm.
recently.
Yeah.
Well, now that
Yeah.
the Netflix special for
Yeah.
F1 Academy is coming out,
Susie
which is
Wolf,
cool.
she's doing it. Susie /
Mhm.
Toto.
Do you know it's being produced
That's-
by Reese Witherspoon's production company?
Oh, really?
I just mean like
But
I did
Who's-
see that, which
who's-
is pretty cool.
Reese Witherspoon?
Oh, we love her.
yeah. I think it's just annoying because it's like you have to find it. You can't just like turn on F1 TV and like turn it on like you can the race for that
Mhm.
weekend. Like you literally have to dig for it to try to find it.
I bet they're working on stuff.
Oh, it
doesn't
pops up
pop
on the
up on mine.
schedule.
For F.
Yeah.
Like on my homepage, when I
literally
open it, it's
scroll
right
down
there.
and it
Yeah, mine
starts
too.
going
Oh, really?
to,
Pops up.
the archives and shit, and like the little tech talks and shit. And I'm like, why is it not like right there?
Are you looking for like previous
No,
races
I'm,
or like
talking
the
about,
current ones happening?
Mine did not show up with the F1 Academy race this weekend.
Mine definitely like notified us, and we were watching the other
that's
thing,
weird.
and it like said, "Watch this now." And it
You
said
probably
it
just have to
happened.
turn on some notifications for it, because I think I need to as well, because I don't get I have all the F1 calendars and stuff, but I want to watch the more of the F1 Academy stuff, because it's honestly super cool and it's groundbreaking, and I mean, it's just changing the sport in so many ways, and it's cool to watch,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, I think
Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, they'll be FT.
yeah. Okay.
Next
Oh,
week.
we should definitely watch it, and it's probably during the day, so maybe we can like watch it on here or something.
Yeah. Is there anything else about Imola that's exciting? I mean, I think it's all about upgrades and seeing how if
Is it-
that McLaren. Yeah, I think Piastri is supposed to have the other half of the upgrades, so that'll be interesting to see. Is it track specific? Did they just do really well at a street circuit? Imola is like a real racetrack, like real.
I think it'll just also be
race
interesting
circuit,
to see
so, like,
what a full functioning
see if
Red Bull looks like
McLaren's-
compared to the car. It's also going to be interesting to see when everyone else brings
Mhm.
upgrades where that puts the McLaren. Like, does it neutralize the McLaren, or are they still like on the right track for having a
Mhm.
decent car?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
we saw these upgrades with McLaren, so it's always interesting when the team that brings the upgrades first to see how far they move, and then what happens. Like, do they too soon? Do they not, like, when you wait a little bit, you can see what else you need to put into it. But no, it's all exciting stuff. I'm really excited for the next. I think after it goes Imola, and then we have like a week off, and then it's like race.
No, that's not
right?
true.
No, this
we have a
next
week
weekend
off
is a
now,
weekend
and
off.
then it's Imola,
And then Monaco.
and then Monaco, and then it's like another week off, and then we go to Canada.
And then I think it's race
It's a
after
week
Canada.
off, and then it's
'Cause
race,
it's
race.
Okay, cool. I just remember looking and I was like, "There's 3 weeks of races." Oh.
Yeah, June is crazy. June, July.
Yeah. And Canada is exciting. I'm super excited for Canada.
I'm excited for Spain.
We'll probably get together for that
It's not
one
until the end.
in
Not me.
person.
It's not until the end of June that
Oh.
there's 3 races in a row.
Yeah.
Yep.
In
June,
back to back.
July.
Yeah. And then it goes into the summer break
Oh, okay.
right after that, usually.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. I think that is it. We will be back next week or next 2 weeks for Imola, and maybe we'll do one in between to talk more about some fun stuff that's going on, because we might hear some new rumors coming up about where people are going. And for that, we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.